Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the NJ1ST podcast. My name is Ryan McDonald. I have another guest with me, Josh Aikens, up in North New Jersey, a conservative America First candidate. And thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. I appreciate it. And I appreciate the blue polo coordination that we got going on here. It's nice.
And I met Josh through grassroots activism in Sussex County, got involved in 2018, 2019, saw him on the ground, but then I formally saw him involved with the New Jersey parental rights movement. I believe he was elected Board of Ed member, was very active in his local community. And then I have some stats for him and the New Jersey movement, just to let people know that it's not going away. There's a lot of parents joining and getting involved every single year. The elections are up for Board of Ed every single year. In 2021, Josh was a part of the movement with 300 candidates running. 142 of them got elected. In 2022, when I saw Josh in action, he was with 610 candidates ran and 550 got elected. And then just last year, 467 candidates ran and 315 got elected. These are ballpark numbers, but give or take just 10 missing. That's pretty good results, I'd say. Is this a movement, or is this every year sort of thing for Board of Ed elections?
Well, honestly, this is going to be an every year thing. Whether the movement continues to be publicized, that is no concern over me. I've talked to you many times before about my motivation behind this, and it's trying to get parents more active and available for their own communities, for their own children, and all these other issues that sort of keep blossoming every year fuel the fire. So I get more and more people with different motivations, with different priorities. But my priority is always trying to get people involved in their community, active in their school board, because it is the lifeblood of their township, of their district. And the more people that we can do that, the better off the whole state will be going forward.
And specifically in that 2022 era, I went to a presentation that you made, and you meticulously outlined every step from the state down to the Board of Ed, what you guys are dealing with, how they're trying to sue you if you're, respectively going a different way. We have home rule here in New Jersey. You're supposed to be able to rule at the local level, but the NJ state seems otherwise. But just for viewers, Josh was there with Eric Peterson, two people who I'd say Josh was there a little earlier, but he's an assemblyman, Eric Peterson. He's got a lot of stuff on his table, but they were conservatives talking about the parental rights movement, talking about these edicts coming from the state, especially after the pandemic that we went through. So I do know that there is a conservative pushback still. It exists. And if you want to just talk a little bit about the parental rights movement a little bit before we talk about politics.
Sure. Yeah. Well, apparently everything's politics these days. But I mean, there is this notion out there that the progressive side of the parental rights wing won last year, but they really just grabbed all the headlines and grabbed they had a lot of money. But while I wasn't too much involved last year, as I have been in prior years due to political stupidity, I think that we still landed about 61 to 62% of the candidates that were running on conservative or traditional minded platforms. Now, we had a lot of candidates out there that wanted to do their own thing. You get that with this type of stuff with grassroots. The thing with grassroots is it's different than any sort of other political party or entity, right? There's no centralized, orb or seats of power, right? They a lot of people come to me and they say, "Oh, you're the person that does it." I'm like, "Nah, there's a bunch of people that do. There's Nikki that does New Jersey Project. There's the moms down in Roxbury that do their thing. There's Moms for Liberty that are sprouting up all over the state. There's all these different entities that are happening, which is wonderful, and that's what makes grassroots sort of difficult to wrap your arms around. But because of that, there were a lot of offshoot candidates or slates that were running and they didn't want to hear anything. A lot of them, not a lot of them, some of them reached out to me and I gave them advice, as I've given advice to many people. And my spiel never changes, because at the heart of it all, you need to make sure that you're doing this for the right reasons, not for these one-off issues, because these one-off issues will come and go. things will die down. Publicity will die down. Fox News won't be coming knocking at your door anymore. They'll turn to a different news cycle. And you need to get to the root of the problem is making sure that academics becomes the main focus of your school district. We are in the business in terms of schools and school boards of producing the smartest possible student that you can, right? That is the goal of our society, is to make sure that the next generation is smarter than the prior generation. And for some reason now we've gotten into all these other things, whether they're politically motivated or other entities that are getting their hands in this. We're losing focus, and I'm trying to bring people back now. So when people started coming to me in the beginning, they were like, oh, masks or vaccines. And I'm like, okay, great. Let you come into me and talk. We'll talk about that. But have you looked at your school budget? Have you actually looked at the way your school is being structured? Have you looked at the way your school is being staffed? And then with the parental rights movement, so I talked to a lot of people about this, Greg Quinlan being one of them. There's many different facets, because people come to me for like, oh, did you look at this legislation? Did you look at that policy? Why don't you come down and speak in Trenton and all this stuff? And I said, look, you could spend all day on policy alone. My focus is just trying to get people to run for the board. It is easy to yell and scream from a keyboard, but you will not make change. And I promise you that. This is one thing I'll guarantee your listeners. I promise you will not make change until you're on the other side of the table. Until you're on the other side of the table and you sort of get a different understanding of what's going on and why things are the way they are. Like, for instance, one of my main things is finance, budgeting and background. That's my main focus. And it always has been. It's near and dear to my heart. So when I see that school budgets are, 60 to 75% of your township budget, I'm like, why is that? Now, my township, it's easy to understand that, is we don't have police, we don't have fire, we don't have, so it's easy to understand why. I can lower my budget down to like $100 and we'd still probably be about 60% of our town budget. But with that said, is when you start going into the budget and realize that the majority of what is happening is it's baked in state requirements that you can't get around, then you realize like, oh crap, like I was throwing darts at people, or I was having this misunderstanding of what was happening without ever understanding what was going on. And now, not to say that you can't make changes, or not to say that you can't just thumb your nose at the state, but that's a whole other issue altogether.
It takes money and lawsuits. Exactly. Like the fight is not necessarily in the streets then, even though that's where the grassroots manifests. And just to finish up the NJ parental rights movement, and thank you for that, outlining two things, one being policy and how it goes beyond the politics. It goes into finances, like you said, but also what we inevitably talked about was the politics. It's bringing it all back to me. 2023, Nikki and New Jersey Project was trying to organize everybody, trying to help. What it really was there wasn't enough help for Nikki, for people like you. There was everyone just asking one person to do a mountainous task of things, and it still worked out well. But now, like you said, starting off 2024, there was a lot of blame going around for the reason why we lost in 2023, probably from the Democrat media, but a lot of Republicans kind of agreed right away, specifically after the League of Municipalities. And then I'm glad to say for NJ First viewers, I went down to the NJ GOP Leadership Summit in AC, the swamp. It was very swampy down there. And they had Nikki, New Jersey Project, Stouffer, and Moms for Bergen, Liberty, Amanda, I don't know how to pronounce her last name. Alex Boger, Amanda. Sorry. But they were there, and it means that the NJGOP was receptive. Even they must not think that it was that much of a loss. But yeah, I see that little head tilt. So we can go on unless you want to speak about anything I just said. Yeah, let's go on. Let's move on.
I think Nikki did a fantastic job last year, and I constantly am in contact with her, and I have apologized to her for sort of abandoning last year's cycle. Rightfully so. I was going through my own primary, and I was dealing with that. And once the primary was over, I needed to create a little bit more of a personal headspace for myself. And so I helped very few candidates last year. Some, very few though. Nikki really took it And, I know that's not where she wants to be in terms of this movement. Like I said, there's different facets. You can be an activist, you can be a policy person, you can, contact your legislators, or you can work on school boards and campaigning itself. And campaigning and school boards were not, finding candidates was not something that she wanted to do. And she expressed that. I mean, I'm sure she'd tell you herself. So actually our first call is this Sunday. Unfortunately, it falls on St. Patrick's Day. So hopefully people will stay professional, but she's going to host a call, which I'm going to be speaking at, and we're going to work on candidates for this cycle, because every year is a new year. And, I believe that starts at 7 o'clock, 7 to 8:30. Reach out to her, or if you're in her distribution cycles, you probably have an email and notification that it is happening. But I will be there. I will be speaking, and we're going to kick this back off again. And
very cool.
On a brighter part is I'm also working with one of the moms from Roxbury, Kristen Cobo, and her efforts for what her and her partner, her team has done down there over the past couple of years. They've flipped that board. And that board was a disaster. I mean, the publicity that they've gotten and the nonsense that they've had to go through is astonishing, that you cannot speak out without being sued in this day and age for absolutely nothing, for just questioning what is happening in your child's school district. Check them out. I think, I don't know if you've ever spoken to them before. If you can put their link in the video for their Give, Send, Go, because they are being sued by their librarian, and it is unfortunately that stuff costs money. While we all know that they're in the right, it still costs money. You still have to go through the New Jersey court system.
It's almost like impossible to prove defamation in court through the hurting your monetary thing, but somehow they have a case and it's going through, and they're gonna it's always because they're on the progressive side with those people and the lawyers and courts. That's what I'm assuming. And the media is pushing it out, saying that it's not, it's a book ban, all this, but let's leave that there.
That librarian is being backed by the American Librarian Association, so they have some dollars behind them.
Yeah.
Which is New Jersey, right? Which is New Jersey in general. If money talks.
And we'll segue on over to a topic I know that you can easily speak about, and a lot of people talk about it, the Uni Party. So first we can talk about the federal side of it, and then our own New Jersey state side of it. But I always start off with my favorite congressman. People probably know Thomas Massie Jr. And why I say that he exposes the Uni Party so much, because it was during the most important times during the COVID pandemic, the shutdown. We gave everybody $12,000 checks just to experience the inflation that we're going through today. Thomas Massie Jr. stood up to that. He just recently stood up to the TikTok ban, meaning don't give the government full power to do something, make sure you're not giving them a power that would go too far. And also just recently, he answered New Jersey's question when it came to E-Verify, talking about illegal immigration and protecting American jobs. I relayed that to Don Fantasia and and I spoke to Mike Testa last night. So they're definitely know that Thomas Massie Jr. gave them that warning. But that's the Uni Party, if you ask me, that there's Republicans and Democrats. They don't look at the bills. They just sign it through. And then there's American patriots like Thomas Massie Jr. that's voting against both parties. And even I think like AOC joins them sometimes, But what's your opinion on the Uni Party on the federal level?
Oh, geez. Oh, man. It's there's very few out there, either on the Democrat side or the Republican side, that will speak out of turn. Thomas Massie being one. I think, when it comes to senators, no one compares to Rand Paul, in my opinion. I think Rand Paul comes from a great stock. His father, we should have listened to Ron many years ago, and we didn't. And I think we're suffering because of that. The warnings were there, and this TikTok ban, oh man, this is very frightening. If anyone is celebrating this, if anybody is celebrating this right now, they really don't understand forward execution of policy. This is what is going to happen here is you're going to get a ban on what is it called now? X, Twitter.
Right.
Elon's site. You're going to get a ban on that. You'll get a ban on Truth. I'm on Truth, but I feel like I haven't been on since it first joined. All of these other things that are not acceptable to whoever is in power at the moment will be banned. Now, do I want Chinese influence in American culture? No. China has the 100-year policy where they want to wipe America and Western civilization off the map. They're fully invested in that, and they have been fully invested in that for many a decade now. If anyone thinks that they're not going to continue down that path, they're foolish. China is not our friend. China will never be our friend, nor will Russia. And look, to get into the Ukraine, to get into the Ukraine thing. Look, I think that I'm tired of being the world police. I am. And I feel for the Ukrainian people. I don't want Ukraine to be wiped off the map. I don't want Russia to gain more power. But it comes to a point where I don't know how many times the United States population needs to be warned that meddling in foreign affairs only creates secondary and tertiary problems for us.
Well said.
Afghanistan, Mugabe, all these other things that we involved ourselves in, we've created a world of problems for ourselves that have cost us billions of dollars and thousands, hundreds of thousands of lives. I don't know how often we need to do that to make this mistake to get it through our heads. And I don't think that we will ever, because then we have other people going to Israel and saying, like, we need to be involved in this. And again, the attacks that happen from Hamas on Israel is abhorrent. I don't want civilians dying at all. I'm an anti-war human being. I don't like people dying. However, the other side of saying, oh, Israel is this mass murdering thing, they need to stop doing what they're doing. Israel's defending themselves. Who am I to tell Israel how they're supposed to defend themselves? Now, I'm also don't want to send Israel more money. I don't want to send them more support. I don't want to support Palestine. You guys sort it out. If anyone has ever listened to history, and I know history is one of your major things, right? The Middle East has been a disaster for what, 2,000 years plus? Mm-hmm. I just don't know why we think that we're going to solve that problem right now. They don't like each other. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. They don't like each other. They're probably never going to like each other. This whole two-state solution thing, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't work. Let them figure that out. Trump tried, Clinton tried, every president has tried to solve that problem. Never going to solve that problem. But we have people here in Congress that are getting money from both sides. Yeah. And so they have to play that game because they want to continue getting that money. So they push this policy and they'll call it bipartisan. And realistically, it's not. It's just stupidity, this TikTok ban. And for instance, and I'll use this one. I don't know if there's another policy out there that you wanted to talk about, but this is kind of the hot topic right now, is this TikTok ban. And Massey's been all over this, as has Rand Paul. Now, I follow probably Rand more than I follow Massey, but both of them hit my timelines a lot. But I mean, it's stifling free trade and the market is, and having government involve themselves in it. And any Republican that's going to go ahead and say that this TikTok ban is a good thing, that we should ban TikTok. Anytime that they've ever voted against government involvement in the free market, they should slap themselves on the wrist, because this is essentially what they're doing, is they're stifling free enterprise in the United States. And I thought that we were, at least on a naive level, I thought we were a free market civilization. I know we're not, but I thought that we were supposed to be striving towards that.
It definitely does get to like the brim and the debate of whether or not to ban something or make them divest the forfeiture to make an American company. People say that's kind of hypocritical because Facebook just does the same. They spy on you. Or even X, we found out with the FBI and Twitter the whole time. So it is an interesting debate. I think that's what it should be. It should be debated. And I think that's what they're doing.
I mean, our government spies on us. I mean, they've come out and said that for years now. So
But and then that's kind of like an excuse to let China keep doing what they're doing at the same time. So I understand that there's two sides of it, definitely. But that's more to say that I agree that the Uni Party has an incredible foreign influence on both sides, no matter what policy we're even talking about. And we can leave that there because I think people understand that completely. But what a lot of people might not understand is what I've been seeing, and we're going to only touch on it briefly, is the foreign influence on the state government level. We have people going over abroad to Israel, but also Chris Christie to Ukraine. This is state level for New Jersey, even though he was running for president. And during the 2021 election, Governor Murphy going to India, but as well to Israel, and Jack as well going to Israel. There was an interesting question. He was questioned why he went, danced around it a little bit. But these are questions. Why is a state representative going over? And they give interesting responses, but I don't agree with that at all. And we can talk about the state Uni Party more politically rather than the foreign side, unless you had anything to say about that.
No, I think the state. I mean, I think the theme will be the same. Is money?
Yeah.
Is they're looking for clout and they're looking for donations. So recently there was someone, a private citizen, by the way, who went and visited the border down in Texas. So if I remember correctly, Texas is still the United States. And if it's the United States, it's still within this country. So it's something that we should all be concerned with. It's not Israel. At last I checked, Israel doesn't have a United States border there. But there was some legislators that came out and didn't like that a private citizen.
I didn't see that.
Oh, no, you didn't see that at all.
I'll have to look. Yeah, no, I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
I already know who it was. Never mind. Go on. Yeah,
I know you know who it is. So they didn't like that this private citizen went down to the border and publicized it and used their platform. And they have a big platform. There's a lot of New Jersey residents that have big platforms. So they use their platform to promote the atrocities that are happening at the border, the failed federal policies that we've had with when it comes to immigration. And I'm someone who wants a moratorium on all immigration, whether it's legal or illegal in the United States, until we figure out a better policy. They always talk about at the federal level, and I apologize because I know you said you wanted to talk about state, but at the federal level, everyone brings up this talking point of we have failed immigration policies. I agree. So why not just stop what we're doing right now? And if this is so important for you, now we saw how fast that TikTok policy got through. If this is so important for you, you guys should have a policy done and written and published within a week, right? You should be able to, a moratorium for a week. You know what? I'll give you a month. And we've had moratoriums in the past, and I don't think people understand that. We've had immigration moratoriums in the past. Calvin Coolidge did it during his presidency until they figured out a better way to allow immigrants to come into this country where it's not just this mass rush of people, because the left wants to go ahead and say the poem on the Statue of Liberty, give me your hunger, you're tired, and you're poor, which is not in the Constitution, doesn't bear anything legislative on this nation. It's just a very well-written poem that came later on in our country's history. But they want to use that as saying like, oh, we let everybody in. Well, there comes a cost to allowing people to come in this country unfettered. And I think we're realizing that right now. And to tie this back to schools, is New Jersey schools are starting to see a mass influx of English as second language speakers, and they are illegals. We have a lot of illegals that are coming into the state because of the busing situation in Texas. And I really don't blame Texas. Now, I don't like what Texas is doing from a New Jersey perspective, but New Jersey asked for this. And I believe President Obama said elections have consequence. We have consequences. We voted for this. We actively voted for the policies that we have right now in this state and in this country. So we deserve what we're getting. I don't like it, but we deserve it. So having these illegals being bused into New Jersey, schools are going to start seeing a problem. If you are not fully equipped to accept these students into your school program, you will have to pay for it. You will see budgets being exploded because you're going to have to hire teachers and you have to craft programs and bring in books and bringing all these other things that will help these young people, no fault of their own, Hopefully they're not being sex trafficked, but we don't know that, and we don't necessarily care, right? Because no human is illegal. So I heard.
Being ironic, right?
There's a little bit of sarcasm there, right? So because of that, the United States citizen, the taxpayer, is going to pay for this. And at what point are we going to say we have a problem in our taxes? Because we are allowing people who are coming in undocumented, illegal, and they're not paying taxes. They're not paying into the system. Everything's happening in cash. And I mean, so that's why I'm a big fan, a big proponent of anyone who proposes a moratorium on immigration to come up with a better plan, a better system that will allow these people to come in so they're not being sex trafficked, so they don't have to pay thousands of dollars to make it through El Salvador and Mexico and all these other countries to get to this country. I'm not saying I don't want immigration to happen. Of course I do. I think that is a wonderful thing. We have a lot of space. Some of these people bring in benefits to this country. Elon Musk being an immigrant to this country, he has brought millions of jobs. I believe you had a job with him as well, right?
That's true. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you had a job with him. He's employing hundreds of thousands of people, jobs that were not there before. That's a great thing. That is one of the positives of immigration. Now, some of the other things that we're seeing is the drugs, the gangs, the sex trafficking, all these negatives that are happening. Now, we already had negatives before this, and anyone that wants to say that we didn't, that the country was perfect before that was fraudulent and foolish themselves. We had problems as it is. All this does is compounds the problems that we had before, and it diverts our resources to these other problems. And now the other problems are being ignored. So all of this costs money. And because of that, we have problems.
I think that's America first in a nutshell, like how you just outlined everything, taking care of America. We've had problems before, and now we have additional problems. If anyone's interested in what a moratorium is or the ideas that are envisioned in it, because there's all different kinds, ask myself, ask Josh. It's very vast, kind of, so we can go into it in a little detail later. But for the New Jersey state, we'll segue over to that. I just wanted to talk about.
How was that summit, by the way?
It wasn't good. Let's put it that way. It wasn't good. No, a lot of people complained that it was smaller than last year.
It's the first one I skipped.
Oh, okay. I mean, it was nice seeing everybody, but no, it didn't. It was the same old, same old.
Yeah.
And for the state. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I said it's a lot of self-congratulatory pats on the back.
Yeah, definitely. For the change, how are we going to make change in New Jersey? We have Bob Auth joining the America First Republicans, going up and down the state, trying to get people to register to vote by mail, because the strategy there is to gain a majority. Once you gain a majority as Republicans in Trenton, you'll be able to make rules. You know, I think maybe when I was 10 years old, Chris Christie area, probably there was a majority. I don't know. But I have been paying attention to the Republican voters and who they reelect, and the Republican elected officials. They sometimes vote with the Democrats. So I don't think just a majority is going to be good enough. You have to elect the right Republicans, what people call conservative, what people call America First. And I just wanted to outline that because we can go right to 2025 NJGOP gubernatorial primary. John Bramnick is not stopping. He is getting that state NJGOP coalition in his back pocket, specifically Morris County, specifically Union County. People think it's a joke. It is a joke because he's not going to win, but he's going to make everybody's life living hell, because everyone's going to be making memes on the internet, tweeting at him, and he's going to be out there actually getting votes and getting people riled up and stuff. Let's talk about the 2025 for a little bit.
Oh boy.
Do you think John Bramnick's a serious candidate?
Well, it's kind of funny is I just got a new follow on Twitter this morning.
From his governor page or from his personal?
From his personal page.
So you're not blocked. I give that a week.
I honestly don't understand how I'm not blocked. And when I was talking to Phil Rizzo this morning, he's like, how are you not blocked? I'm like, I've been hammering this guy for years now. I don't like John Bramnick. I don't find his politics to be anything Republican. And actually, to go back to your point of uniparty, and this sort of dovetails into the John Bramnick question, is what does it mean to be Republican? So at some juncture, we have just merged into saying that we're not Democrat. Well, I don't know what that means either, other than I don't want to be a lunatic and think it's okay to indoctrinate children at young ages with crazy sex. But that's one thing. But at one point, the Republican Party had a strong message and a strong foundation. John Bramnick, in particular, is against that message of fiscal conservatism, family values, conservative social views on things. John Bramnick calls all of us in the parental rights movement, and I want everyone who will ever listen to you, I promise you this, John Bramnick, if you're in the parental rights movement, he considers you an extremist. He calls you an extremist because you question what is happening, because you are concerned with your children's future. You are concerned with your tax dollars. You are concerned in the vision of society. He calls you an extremist. And that is unquestionable. I will never support John Bramnick at all. I would rather not vote than vote for John Bramnick, ever. And, you know, people use the rhino comment, and I've stopped using rhino. I call them loyalists. You know why I call them loyalists? Because during the American Revolution, he would have been one of those people that supported the crown and said, oh, you guys throwing effigies of King George, you're extremists. Tar and feathering people, you're extremists. I don't like your measures. You know what? We would have never had America if we had politicians like John Bramnick. And we would have never been great if we had John Bramnick as leading the way. So I, for one, would never want John Bramnick to be one of the, you know, and New Jersey is one of the three most powerful governors in the country: New York, California, and New Jersey. And just by the right that we give the governor, the powers that we've allowed the governor to have, he would have been the second or third most powerful governor in the country.
Right.
John Bramnick cannot have that power because he would not know what to do with it. He would be an absolute train wreck, and you would never see, and again, maybe rightfully so, you would never see another Republican ever be elected in the state if John Bramnick was leading the way. Now he thinks he's carving this middle ground out, and I'm bridging the gap. You're not bridging anything. Everybody on both sides hates you, and there are conservatives that absolutely, they will sit home. I'm one of them. I will sit home. I'll go vote everything but the governor in 25. If John Bramnick is a Republican, I will vote for everything but the governor.
It's really hard to even say nice words about someone who campaigned with Governor Murphy in 2021. You know, not necessarily by side, but why were they at the same fundraising rally? Everybody saw it, and Republicans just reelected him. It has to be because of this county ballot line that's going on now. Unfortunately, I see only Democrats joining that and battling that. I know yourself have been outspoken on it. But Republicans aren't, and I think that's why John Bramnick gets reelected, though, right? Because of the county ballot line. Why else would Republicans vote for this guy? They just vote down the line.
Honestly, I don't know what goes through the minds of some people when they vote, and that's their own personal choice. I am done supporting people just because of the letter by their name. And that's it. I'm going to hold them accountable. And I've told them this many times before. I'm going to start holding you accountable, not by the letter, but what you stand for. And, you know, you touched on the topic before of like E-Verify. Well, that sounds great, but have you actually thought about what that means in application? Right. We don't, because they just want to grab a headline. They want to say, I'm doing something. And if that's all it takes to get reelected, then fine. Then, you know, again, we deserve what we get. But when it comes to John Bramnick or even Jack, I mean, again, there's only two people on the Republican Party that have announced that they're officially running for governor, and I wouldn't support either of them. I unfortunately supported Jack reluctantly at the end or after the primary in last cycle, and that was because I was hopeful and thought maybe someone was better than Murphy. I'm not so sure that he would have been any different, because he supported shutting schools down. He supported masks. He supported the vaccine. He supported, all this other stuff. And he told us grassroots leaders, and I honestly, the fact that you weren't in that room when the rest of us were, he told us, you're going to hear me say and do things that I may or may not support, but it's because of the way the polls are reading. And I'm like, so you're not a leader. You're just kind of a fair weather. We call it in sports, we call that a fair weather fan. Like, whenever they're winning, like, that's the team I'm going to support. Like, no, either you actually believe in this stuff or you don't. And to me, Jack has proven himself to not actually believe in anything other than, I want to be elected. And to me, I don't see Bramnick. Actually, you know what? I'll give Bramnick a little more credit, because Bramnick believes in whatever Bramnick's message is, and that is everybody on the right is extreme and everybody in the middle is right, and maybe everybody on the left is somewhat right.
The true Democrat way of thinking, someone who actually tells you what their terrible message is, rather than being around it.
At least Johnny is open and honest, and if he doesn't like the way you speak, he just blocks you.
I have to agree with the Jack Ciattarelli part. All these NJGOP leaders, no one reached out to me. Went to school, Rutgers, political science, graduated in the grassroots. They don't reach out at all. But just for Jack Ciattarelli, he had a op-ed release, and I actually wrote a Substack on it. And it's interesting to think, like, what is he doing? Like, his strategy, he says he's a conservative, he says he's pro-life, and then he says he's pro-choice, and we all have to make amends and negotiate with the Democrats, and if we really want to win, we have to be pro-choice. And it's just, he doesn't pick his principles and stick with it. Yeah, you're right on that. And for the John Bramnick, people have to take him out. He has to get out of Trenton. He's really bad. But I appreciate. Yeah, go ahead.
He's one of them. I mean, you have the Republican Senate Minority Leader who gladly takes money from the NJEA. I mean, he publicizes that they're one of his biggest sponsors. So, and yet he'll say, like, oh, parental rights and we need to protect our kids in our school. I'm like, well, you're literally in bed with the very people that are destroying New Jersey education. So
more than just Bramnick, there's a lot of them. It seems
there is a lot, and when you talk about the Uniparty in New Jersey, I mean, it's essentially, I don't want to say all of them, because there are a few, and there are some. Look, policy by policy, no one's ever going to agree. You and I actually disagree on some things as well, and we've had our disagreements in the past. But when it comes down to, like, the foundational principles of what you believe in, this is why I said, what does it actually mean? Someone's got to tell me what it actually means to be a Republican in New Jersey. What is it? What is it at the core foundation? So the 4 principles, if you're going to build a house, the 4 corners of your house, what are they? Is it fiscal conservatism? Is it pro-family? Is it pro-life? Is it, any other issue out there? What are the other issues that this party stands for? And quite honestly, all I hear is, well, we're Big Tent. And I don't actually know what that means. And I'm pretty sure they don't know what that means.
Ever since Doug Steinhardt 2020. But we'll end this here just with one last question. Do you think Tom Kean Jr. should be primaried in 2026?
Do I think he should, or I think he will be?
Should be.
Should. Tom TK2 is not my type of Republican. So if we have a fiscal conservative Republican out there, an American First Republican that wants to challenge him, I would gladly support that.
Cool. It's got to be a serious candidate. I agree. Yes.
I mean, you have to have a lot of, it comes down to money.
Yeah, I know.
He's got loads of money. It's like challenging Gottheimer. You got to have lots of money. And if you don't have money in this state,
we'll see if he can spend. We'll see if he can spend enough to outspend Sue Altman, which he has plenty to do, but he's going to have to spend all of it.
She's a nutter. Honestly, I can't.
No, I've had my rounds with her too. I have all this content I wish the Kean team would take, but they don't want to get any attention towards them.
You and I are, persona non grata when it comes to that kind of stuff, and I think we both accept that at this juncture.
But I appreciate you so much for coming on the NJ First podcast. I know that people who are going to be watching this enjoy what you do, enjoy the leadership that you did, and hope that you continue in New Jersey politics. I know it's very much daunting on the name and the family and home life, but people like me appreciate you. through all of it. And thank you again for coming on.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.